You wonder about a response that has everything to do with discipleship, but nothing to do with how to accomplish being a disciple of Jesus Christ. That's what these early disciples were wrestling with. So they could relate well to what we're about to hear. This is a story about a Christian missionary who traveled to China in an effort to share the gospel with people who had never even heard of Jesus. Step one was to find metaphorical language that describes Jesus and what he's all about, who he is, what he's about. Jesus is like bread. Jesus is like bread from heaven. Jesus is the bread of life, announces the missionary. But vacant stares are all he received in return. This went on for weeks until the missionary had an epiphany. From out of nowhere, it just came out. Jesus is the rice of life, the missionary proclaimed. Jesus is the rice of life. You could hear an audible gasp coming from the people around him. And suddenly that universal gesture showed up, the one that signals comprehension. One moves their head up and down, up and down. Yes, I understand. It's the power of relatability that shines through in a message of hope in a dark, unsung world. Jesus is vital to our spiritual well-being. He is the author of grace and the publisher of mercy. Jesus is essential to all our relationships that begin in the waters of baptism, where we receive our name. And we are blessed. We are blessed with the gift of forgiveness that frees us to live in peace with all God's children, if we would but choose to do so. But key to any form of comprehension is faith, trust, and believing where we have not seen. What we have to remember is that there is no such thing as my bread or my rice. No, there is only my bread, your bread, our bread. Remember, give us this day our daily bread. You know, whenever I learn of someone new having contracted the virus, it just breaks my heart. This virus we are doing battle with takes no prisoners, harbors no sympathy for anyone, no exceptions. It just comes crashing into our lives, refusing us even the dignity of a funeral service, of a death ritual. How could God let this happen? Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Swirls around in our heads. But did God do this? Is the virus the result of divine retribution? You know, reaping what we sow and striking down sinners and all that stuff. But then I stop and think, we better hope and pray that that's not how God works. Because if it is, if we really do get what we deserve, well, then insert expletive right here. No bread. Bread symbolizes every good thing, every act of kindness that we ingest, every shot of courage for all the days ahead. It's a kind of apathetic indifference that we experience these days. Apathetic indifference in which we have learned to dismiss people from our lives by forgiving them, canceling them, and then have less and less to do with them until finally there is nothing left between us at all. I don't think that's forgiveness. I recall being utterly dismayed when we studied this very text in seminary. My professor took an interesting tact. He said, in a very unbelieving stance, he dared to suggest that the manna God gave the Hebrews was actually a form of insect feces that coated the grass like dew and burned off by mid-morning. High in protein, this manna, along with water and quail, made up the everyday diet of the Israelites. But manna feces? Didn't learn that in high school or Sunday school. We gave that professor a lot of pushback because we'd all dealt with this in second grade Sunday school class. It was supposed to be a miracle story, not a bug poop story. We would have much preferred, say, debating the merits of unleavened bread and its connection to Moses and the Exodus, but that's not what happened. My professor pushed us hard, and we pushed right back. And we didn't get anywhere, except that we did finally get into a fairly difficult debrief. But to find faithfulness amidst tragedy, amidst uncertainty, is a difficult place to pitch your tent. Yes, the good Lord guides us and directs us, keeps us safe as possible where there is possibility of a return to health and wholeness. I pray we find it. We dare to be vaccinated. In the end is the beginning. Each day is a new day. We start over. We receive the gift of forgiveness. We hopefully share the gift of forgiveness with others. We hopefully share our very lives with one another. But that's the hard part. That's the hard part. It's the part that leaves us scratching our heads. How do we relate to one another and to our God when we are suffering through the most difficult, most heartbreaking, most undeniably frustrating periods in human history? And yet you are here among us. That is your promise. in good and times and in bad times. You are here, and we are here together as one.